Hi. The title of today, I'm sorry, I was doing my walk. I have one fuzzy hair. It's not going to go down. Um, so we're staying in the Fetterman book, Facing Bipolar, the Young Adult's Guide to Dealing with Bipolar Disorder. I'm probably just going to say Fetterman now. Like I said, he has other books with people. Russ Fetterman, PhD, J. Anderson Thompson Jr., MD. So, chapter 2 is called Getting Help, but I'm only going to read what I highlighted. And when it gets to 20 minutes, I'm going to wait for tomorrow. Okay. So, your first appointment. Each mental health professional has his or her own style, but you may not. Your initial experience with a mental health professional should be a reassuring one. If you don't start to feel this within a couple of visits, then the person may not be the best fit. We strongly suggest that you discuss any discomfort with the professional you're seeing. If you find that this doesn't help, it's clearly time to look for someone else. And that is the truth, because you will not feel like the help is coming or the help is kind or you feel secure in sharing if right away after a few visits you're like, we're not connecting. Same as medicines. You might find that a medicine works for you. In terms of antidepressants, there's like 16 for sure, and I don't know how many are new, like Abilify. I don't know if that's an antidepressant or a mood stabilizer and something else. So there are new meds. You see them on the TV for all kind of illnesses. There used to, there used to be a drug. It was not for mental health, but it had all this small small font writing all around the screen, and I'm like, who can read that? It made me think that if that was the medicine I ever needed, I would want to read all that in print. Also in magazines, which nobody gets anymore. When that drug is advertised in a magazine, you see all this font, like it's almost in the shape of a fish or a merry-go-round or whatever. Okay, so um, these are the questions that your counselor or psychiatrist might ask you. You might want to go in knowing that some of these would be typical. What brings you in today? How long have you been experiencing your difficulties? When did they start? This is why journaling is so important, because you might not remember exact dates unless you wrote it down. Is there anything that you think has triggered or caused your difficulties? So that Broadway play I talk about, Next to Normal, she lost her 8-month-old son, and he's part of the hallucination that she's had. And he's now 18. She's been seeing him for 18 years. So the psychiatrist says, like, isn't 18 where kids mostly move out? Like, shouldn't you go to his room and, give things away? So sometimes it can be like that. Sometimes I don't think you need a very specific experience like that. The onset times, like 18 to 21. I think bipolar can be as young as 16. They say that they can identify children as bipolar, and you are bipolar from birth, but I think it's really harder to to diagnose children. and often like ADHD could be mixed up with bipolar. So I don't know what they do. I just know with my doctorate, I could see like anger issues. Like I had a young man in fifth grade, did a lot of yelling and cursing in class. And he told me, when we were by ourselves and I asked him, he said, "That's my house. All yelling and cursing." So I really struggled to get those parents to let him see the counselor because everybody thinks that's going to be a stigma that the other kids, but people are going in and out of the room for extra reading help, extra math help, counselors for different reasons, for struggles in the family, for a parent who died or a sibling who died. So I felt like the kids, didn't even like attempt to figure it out anymore unless there was a grade where only one person went out. Then they would ask me like, what are they going out for? I don't know. Even if I did know. So I hope the stigma with that is coming down. What are the specific problems you've been having? Think about the different symptoms described in chapter 1. Have you ever experienced similar difficulties before? When? Have you ever received any previous mental health treatment? Whom or when, with whom, and what did it involve? So it'd be good to know if it was a counselor, a social worker, a psychiatrist. Was the psychiatrist a psychopharmacologist? Was he like the young doctor I found online who just helps people get off medicines if they no longer need them, if that's what is indicated by their psychiatrist? Pardon me. I'm hot and thirsty from walking. Okay. Do you have any other current mental health issues besides that you bring in today? What are they, and are they currently receiving treatment? Do you think that may be related to your current difficulties? So this reminds me of something. There's something called, it's not big, but it's still out there and somebody could help you recognize it. Seasonal affective disorder. I'm going to give approximate dates, okay? Spring comes March 20th, 21st. So there can be some people that are affected by that. Either they're up, they're down. June 20th, 21st. Up, they're down. September 20th and 21st. Up, they're down. And December is almost the worst, 2021, because many people are depressed, lonely. I don't know for what reason. It always seems like many people die during December. In my family, I had aunts and grandparents from one side of my family. Somebody died around Easter for 3 years in a row. That fourth year, I'm like, who's going to die? Because it was so regular. So, yeah. So it's hard to lose somebody at those holiday times, but you may just be a person that needs to, work through it. Doesn't need a counselor, doesn't need a psychiatrist, doesn't need medicine. Because, for instance, you can get a divorce, which is loss and upsetment. You might get depressed, but it's not chronic depression, okay? Depression that doesn't have chronic in front of it is going to get better, and it's not lifelong, okay? So that's good to know. I was always worried when I lost my mother because we were so close. In my head, I thought, I'm going to fall apart. I'm just going to fall apart. I reread some of my mother's letters, and there's one that stood out to me where she said, as an adult in my 20s and 30s, that we were friends. I so would have liked that to be the case with my 3 children. It may be with my son, and this is not about me, but he does call me once a week. And I saw him the other day when he had a half day from teaching. My middle daughter thinks texting is my phone call. And my other daughter, with 3 little grandchildren, is always texting, Alexing, Zooming, FaceTiming about the kids. One time she was in Philly for a doctor's conference, and her other sister and her father and I went out to lunch, and she goes, "This is really neat. I get to talk about myself." But that should be something you can always, I feel, you can always do with your parents, depending on your relationship. Some people, aren't close to their parents. Okay, that was a tangent. I need water to get back on track. So, does anyone in your family have a history of mental illness? Who are they, and what do you know about the treatment? Okay, so it was definitely important to know if somebody in your family had it. Remember, I think I'll show it again in the nurse's textbook. It shows squares and circles. It had people that had committed suicide, in the back, families of the people that they were talking about. And that there's definitely a genetic component, but you don't have to have a genetic component. Um, uh, you don't have to have let me say this, a clear genetic component, all right? Because they're finding out that diet and sleep and getting those right can often lead to some stability, even if you do have a mental illness. Okay. What seems noteworthy about your own personal history? Has most of your life been good, complex, traumatic? What has your relationship been like with parents, siblings, other significant people? What's been your experience in school, academically and socially? How are you doing with your sexuality? Any current or past concerns? What's been your experience with substance use, current and past? Is there anybody in your family with a history of substance abuse? That can be genetic too. Any significant medical issues, current or past? Okay. All good questions. You might want to get a list like that. You can probably get it online, like Google a list of what I should be able to tell the first visit to a counselor or psychiatrist. You could probably get a similar list. Okay. This is just a line I highlighted 2 pages past. After all, we still live in an era where the reality of mental illness is marked by stigma. If there was research I could do, if there was sharing I could do to help relieve stigma on this issue, because the stigma stops people from getting help. I forgot to look about the self-stigma in my dissertation. I have to write a note to myself. Pardon me to write a note to myself. Self-stigma. Yeah, a person might not even want to tell their best friend. They might not even want to tell a sibling. They might not even want to tell a parent. That's why we have to all work whatever way we can to avoid this stigma. Like me writing off schizophrenic disorder people. I wish I had known that for more of my life, because they're not a write-off. There is help. They can graduate from college. Okay. Many people with bipolar disorder lead very normal and productive lives. Many of the time, your disorder will be invisible to others. How great is that? The primary treatment for bipolar disorder is mood stabilizers. I'm not going to go into medicines. I'll just mention two. They said here Depakote is a mood stabilizer, Lamictal is a mood stabilizer, Tegretol is a mood stabilizer. So just if you have those um, meds in that you've heard of before. Lithium is also the only drug known to actually reduce suicidal thoughts in people with bipolar disorder. Further recent evidence by Boku et al. 2009 suggests that the low dose use of lithium serves as brain fertilizer, actually promoting the growth of neurons in thinking, remembering, and feeling areas of the brain. Only problem with lithium is it affects your kidneys. So now they know that you shouldn't be on it for a really long period of time. But certainly if it stabilizes you, you know, a certain amount of time is probably not going to hurt your kidneys. Years and years and years, they now know can hurt your kidneys. And you have to be aware. A side effect like that, you can't ignore. You need your kidneys. Okay. How much time? 4 minutes. Okay. Because the mood stabilizers prevent the antidepressant from causing a manic wait, let me read that whole sentence. What remains standard practice is to try an antidepressant only after one or more mood stabilizers are on board, because the mood stabilizers prevent the antidepressant from causing a manic episode. You don't want to end up in a hospital because of a manic episode triggered by medication. That, in my research, can happen. And that you should really go over with a psychiatrist, because I don't know all the details of that. I just know that it can happen. Stay on your medications and consult with your psychiatrist. The people who go off diagnosed medications that are working set themselves up for a failure to deal, and a possibility that something extreme is going to happen with you in your life that can end you to be hospitalized. It wouldn't be worth it. So if you can get religious about taking your medicine, side effects, there's side effects to every medicine, okay? So there might be side effects to this, but you have to balance it out, you know? Are the side effects about, you know, stability, side effects? Do I want to go to college? Do I want to have a job? Do I want to get married? Do I want to have kids? All these things would indicate that if you have chronic mental illness that you've been your whole life, that you're going to be till the day you die, you need the help. Okay. They said in here, in what we just read, sometimes with medicine and things, your illness can be invisible. So if it's invisible, there's not a stigma about it. Once it's visible, and people who are not knowledgeable and open about mental illness, the stigma is going to hit somebody. All right, let me just see. I have 4 minutes. Maybe that's, I don't know if this connects anything, but this is pages down the road, but there's pink. They may not have a clue as to how to relate to you. Oh, let me read a couple sentences before. It's hard to answer these questions with certainty. Partly the answers depend on the extent of your symptoms and how well people around you understand them. If you become too emotionally expressive, then some people might back away. If you're admitted to a psychiatric hospital, it's not likely that many will visit. If you were in the hospital because of an accident, your friends would want to visit you. But if you're at a psychiatric unit, it's just not the same. They may not have a clue as to how to relate to you. Now you're not a friend or a friend with a mental disorder. I found out that sadly was something that has nothing to do with mental illness. My best friend from when I was 5 died from cancer when she was 50. And when she was first diagnosed, she had so many people that supported her. But once she'd go through a trial, once she was up to, well, you have to go through a trial because we don't know what else to do for you. If she didn't have any success in the trial, more friends would drop away. If she went to another trial, more friends will drop away. I'm not bragging, but once I did take her to the National Institute of Health in Washington, and I had her laughing. We were both laying on beds at night, and I had her laugh until it hurt her. And I felt bad, but she needed to be cheery towards the end. I'll say this one more thing. When we would watch TV together and there'd be a movie trailer, she would say, I won't be alive to see that movie. And something else like that. But she was my best friend. I couldn't be afraid of going wherever she was. I was there as she died. And when I left and got in my car, I cried, but not in front of her, in front of her children, and in front of another good friend. So I no longer send flowers. I send fruit baskets. I mean, edible arrangements, because her children were really not feeling like eating. And when I sent the edible arrangement and I went to visit them, they, within a day, they were pulling, things off the edible arrangement. And that made me feel good that they were getting something to eat. Anecdote. There she is going with the anecdotes, but I care about all of you. I do have a bipolar backroom t-shirt. I'm not asking anybody to get it. Once you look it up and see that it's available, all the money's going to the National Association of Mental Illness. I'm not making money. That's not why I started this channel. Okay. But just to know, if you go for the t-shirt, they'll show you what money is going to the National Association for Mental Illness. And I can't wait to order mine, because I could have said the fundraiser started yesterday when I went and did this. And now I must have given it like a week to get started. But I'm going to order mine. It's white with the logo of my channel. And I'm going to order mine. But I'm not asking anybody to spend money. I want this help to be as free as possible. So have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.